Hello everyone, welcome to The Green Man, and in this video, this is episode 2 of horror films that I've recently watched. And it's been a few weeks since my first video that I did for this little series, and now I've seen a few more horror flicks, so I've got a bit more to talk about, and I will be sharing my thoughts on these 5 films that I've got here, and whether or not I would recommend them for viewing, or if I think you're better off giving them a miss. So here we go, I'm going to share my thoughts on the film I actually watched last night, which was As Above, So Below, starring Perdita Weeks and Ben Feldman. This film kind of had the style, certainly, of something like the Blair Witch Project. Also partly reminded me somewhat of The Descent from 2005, in the way that it was very claustrophobic and dark throughout much of the film, and you can't always see, cleverly with the cameras, you can't always see exactly what's going on, or it's slightly partly disguising the more sort of disturbing parts of the film. And I thought that was a good aspect of this film. Otherwise, there's not a huge amount of story, I guess, going on except searching for this, Philosopher's Stone. It kind of, for me, at times as well, I actually laughed out loud in this film. There were just a couple of lines in the script that I thought, I'm not sure they were meant to be funny, but when they were delivered by the actors, they just made me laugh out loud. I've got an example of one here, which was one of the lines that Papillon said. He goes, "People that go into this tunnel, don't come out," as a kind of warning to the others. And I kind of just found that a bit, it just sounded like such a cliche in a horror film to hear, don't go in there, you'll never come back out, or whatever it is. But anyway, I did enjoy this film, found it thoroughly entertaining, and purely for the reason of entertainment, I would recommend As Above, So Below for one viewing, I would say. Next on my list is Midsommar from 2019, directed by Ari Aster, of course, who directed Hereditary the year before that. This stars Florence Pugh and Jack Rayner, and it is a good film. I mean, it's a very slow burner, so if you don't like suspense to go on too long, you might not be as keen on this film. For me, I don't like all my horror thrown at me all at once, so I quite like the fact it was a slow burner. Beautiful cinematography. It's also a nice contrast to a horror film to have it all filmed during the daylight. I also particularly liked the disturbing elements of this film, that they were nicely sort of put at you as a viewer, without being too predictable, I think, as to what was going to happen during some of these moments that were more disturbing in this film. And I definitely enjoyed this one. I also really liked the way they played off the awkward relationships of the characters, that group of friends, and obviously the relationship between Danny and Christian in the film in particular, and how that evolved alongside the strange behaviours of this cult as well, and those sort of two things kind of almost coming to a head. But I won't spoil the film for you, and I will leave you to watch Midsommar. I think it's a good film, worth a watch, even though it's quite a lengthy one. Third on my list is Hush from 2016, starring Kate Siegel as a deaf woman that's living on her own, that suddenly has to deal with a strange man outside who seems to be, or becomes very apparent to us that he is a psychopathic murderer, and she is obviously at slight disadvantage because you can't really hear him at first, but as the film unfolds, we see how courageous she is, and you end up rooting for her. I won't reveal the end of the film so as not to sort of any major spoilers away, but I did really like this one as well. I thought this was fairly minimalist film, in the fact that kind of one set, and you're sort of seeing everything that's kind of gradually unfolding, and the suspense is held up pretty well. The only thing I would say that I didn't like so much about this, and I guess people may disagree, but that's where I think he gets unmasked pretty early in the film, and kind of being able to see his face and stuff just made him less menacing to me as a villain. And I guess that's because I'm so used to seeing masked villains in horror flicks. But anyway, I wasn't so sure about that in this film, although he did a pretty good job, that actor, of making a kind of psychopathic face, I suppose. But for me, it kind of I wasn't as big on that reveal personally. Interested to know your thoughts though, and what you thought about that with Hush. Number 4 on my list is seen now somewhat as a kind of modern horror classic, and that's the original Saw film from 2004. Obviously now Saw has spawned 9 films in its franchise. It's pretty popular. The films themselves aren't perhaps known for necessarily great acting or Oscar-worthy performances, but they are perhaps more known for their torture elements, which divides people. I think some people absolutely love gore, some people just absolutely hate it. For me, I think the first film is obviously the least gory, perhaps, of all of them. From what I've seen, I don't think I've seen all the Saw films. I don't think I've seen Saw 5 or the most recent one, but I've seen the others. I did like the original Saw film, and I think it has this dark, psychological, mysterious feel to it, which works extremely well right up until the big twist at the end of the film. Um, I like Lawrence Gordon and Adam's character, and they're sort of playing off each other and trying to work out what on earth's going on. Why are they trapped in this bathroom for a lot of the movie? And whilst that's happening, other scenes unfold with what we find out about this jigsaw person, or accomplices and all this kind of thing. Um, and I do like the original Saw. I think it's a good film, and I don't think, unlike some of its sequels, it overdoes the torture in this film. It's slightly done in a slightly more hidden, smarter way, I think, in this movie. Um, that said, I do like a couple of the Saw sequels. I will say that. I'm not going to say what they are here, but I do like a couple of them. Not all of them, but a couple of them. And that leaves me with one more film to talk about. Another film which I've seen very recently, and this was on Netflix. This is Oxygen, from this year, starring Melanie Laurent. In this extremely claustrophobic situation, maybe if you suffer from claustrophobia, I'm not sure I'd recommend this film, because pretty much the entire film is her stuck in this cryogenic unit floating around in space. So I'm not sure I would recommend Oxygen to you if that's not your thing. I do like this film for, again, this film in particular is a really, really minimalist film in what's going on. I mean, you just kind of got, the actress stuck in this cryogenic pod, very gradually working out what's going on, what sort of has led her to this point, who she is exactly. All these things kind of gradually unfold as the film goes on, and you're kind of the viewer, you're finding out along with her, which is the effective way that the film works. I quite liked this film, but on the other hand, I did feel it, because it was so minimalist, it kind of dragged a bit for me, if I'm being brutally honest. I did think that the actress was amazing, performing with such a minimalist idea. And I loved some of the cinematography towards, in certain parts of this film towards the end, as the film slightly expands. Don't want to give away the major spoilers, but this film was, it was quite good, but for me it just dragged a touch. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this latest video. Do feel free, as always, to like and subscribe. Otherwise, have great weekends. See you all later. Take care.